Hello, this is Mandy Gatlin with Investing with Ease. And this is probably one of the most powerful videos that I really wanted to share with you guys. And this one is about a very important question that a lot of people ask me, which is, what if debt is holding me back? What do I do then? Is it okay to invest if I have debt? And my answer is going to be different than a lot of people out there um, because I did it this way and I had success with it. But there are a lot of gurus out there who are, preaching to you and telling you what to do, which is, in my opinion, I don't like that. I want you to do what feels right to you. And so I'm giving you another option. I'm giving you what I did so you can see, that I bucked the trend. I did something completely different and my life turned out completely fine. And also I had success with this method that I used. So I want to show you just in my example that you can trust yourself, in this process and do what feels good to you with education. That's important here, to make sure you research your idea, right? Or your method. If you feel like it might be a way of going about doing things that is a little bit different, than what other people are saying, but something deep inside of you is saying, no, I feel like I could do this way and I would still have success. Um, Definitely check that out. And you have access to our group and you have access to me. And so just check in those ways and see if that's possible. So what I'm going to share with you is a little bit of my story and then show you the tools that I've given you in this particular class. You have a debt tracker and you also have a debt payoff planner to show you some new ideas and methods that you can use to your benefit. So for me, when I started my business, I was in school, I was in college. So I had student loans. I had credit card debt up to my above my eyeballs. And I didn't understand, anything. I did not understand credit cards. I did not understand the student loans. I did not understand the business, I had at the time was brand new. Didn't know what I was doing with that. I was spending money left, right, and center. And I also wanted to invest. And I knew that people were saying, I was hearing gurus and hearing them say that you really needed to be in control of your money. You really needed to pay off all of your debt first before you invested it in the market. And so I got a little bit bummed because I was like, okay, well, when will that be? Like 10 years from now, So, I played that out in my mind. I thought it through and I was like, well, I'm kind of starting to understand this investing thing a little bit more. My dad gave me this information and I am doing well, with my business. It's just I'm not doing well with my my expenses. And I don't really understand my expenses all that well. And so when I saw that, it really helped me to understand that I needed to dig in a little bit more on my debt and also on my numbers. And so you hear me say it over and over again, know your numbers. It's so important to know your numbers. And so that's why I've provided these budgets and the debt trackers and all of those things so that you can take some time at the beginning of this course to know your numbers, to fill everything in, to look at your month of expenses, to pull out your credit cards and to tally up, how much for each category, what you're spending. Because once you start putting your mind on these things, your attention and your awareness on these numbers, your brain is going to start to understand that you want something a certain way, that you are now having kind of like this awareness, this attention on your numbers, and that you are starting to see like, ooh, I'm spending a lot here, but I really would love to be, having more for this category. Maybe it's investing, or maybe it's for a bigger home, or maybe it's for a travel, some kind of travel you're hoping for. You're going to start to see those numbers, and if you do this month by month, your brain will really start to get on board with how can I help you, with this. And so I know for a lot of people, they have an aversion to budgets, and they have an aversion to, numbers, and it's too hard. But it really isn't. I mean, at the time I was just fresh out of high school. I knew nothing about credit card. I thought credit cards were a magical card that money just came out of, truly. And I didn't understand them. I did not know until I pulled out a credit card statement and looked at it and said, oh, I'm paying 20% in interest. What is that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, I really had those aha moments as I started to look at my numbers and understand, what these loans were, what I was paying each month. And so what I will tell you is that whether or not you decide to, start investing while you have debt, you really do need to know your numbers. You really do need to know your budget and know what your expenses and what your income is. Know those numbers, okay? So I think the gurus are looking out for you. I think that they're, trying to help you by saying very simply, to you need to pay all of your debt first, but that simply is not true. You do not have to pay all your debts first to invest money. In fact, if people who are really good with money did that, they would never be investing, because really what ends up happening is when you have expenses, some of those things are investments in themselves. So let's say you waited to start investing in the stock market because you have a mortgage payment, and you're saying to yourself, well, I can't invest because all my money, important money is going towards this mortgage loan. I need to pay off that mortgage loan. And if you allow yourself to be worried about the mortgage loan, and that is a loan and a debt, if you're saying that to yourself, that it's a debt, then you're going to be scared to take whatever extra money you have and invest it in, say, something else in the stock market. But we know that the people who are multi millionaires, even billionaires, have many expenses. They have many loans. Sometimes they have loans all over the place. Like when I learned about real estate, the gentleman that I learned from had over 500 properties all over the US. And he had learned how to take a property, pay it off a little bit, and use that money that was built into the property to leverage it and take the money out and use it as a money for investing in two more properties. So if you start to see what I'm saying, what I'm trying to explain is that you will have expenses, and then it's okay to also invest in things like this, say index funds, as an investment. So, but what you do need to know are your numbers. You do need to know, like, I have this mortgage and I have this car loan and I have these student loans, and these are my payments and these are the amounts, for those. And then I also have income for this investment, that I want to start, and put money towards each month. Now, the hard part, is the emotion for most people when it comes to having debt, and they feel like that's a weight on their shoulders. Now, what I will say to you is, what I want you to kind of be thinking about or getting into the energy of or starting to embody a little bit more is this person who is capable of holding and having loans and also investing. If you're able to step into, and embody someone who can be okay with having multiple loans and having things that they're paying off and paying towards, and then also be investing and improving, even if you're improving in yourself, that's investing. But say you want to purchase assets, or say you want to invest in things maybe like artwork, and that's an investment. Maybe you want to purchase some artwork and then, allow that to be in your house, but it's an investment over time that will accrue, some kind of interest or principal over time, and you'll end up being able to sell it, at some point down the road. There are many, many ways to invest, but really the key here is to be able to hold that space for yourself of, it's okay for me to have multiple things going on, loans as well as investing. I did that for myself. I started to invest $20 a month when I had so much debt. I had so much debt. It did feel very overwhelming at the time, but I did know that I wanted to start putting more towards my investments. And because I started to look at my numbers, it gave me clues. It helped me see where I was spending money in areas that I just needed to stop spending in. And so that's the important part of this, is that when you have the goal of investing even more and increasing the amount, because that's the goal with this course, and, to help you, increase your investments faster. In order to get there, you really have to know your numbers and really understand, okay, I need to start maybe either cutting here or get more income coming in this area, so that I can pay off these debts faster. So hopefully that helps you see, that it's okay to, hold debt and also have, be capable of investing at the same time. Now, I'm going to share something with you, really quickly, which is a debt payoff planner that's included in this class. And with this, I just want you to read through it and see it as a possible way of paying off something like a credit card, or many credit cards, faster. And that's what this planner helps you do. Now, this is just one way of doing that, okay? There are many different ways of paying off debt, fast. And this is just one, right? So when we're looking at this particular way, this is the way I was able to knock out many credit cards, one after the next. And I had to do it the way that felt good for me, right? And that's what I want for you to do, is find the way that feels good to you. Now, my way is to take all of your statements for your different credit cards and write down, here's an example here, write down what the credit card is, how much you owe, what's the balance, and then create a payment plan, all right, for it. Now, you start with what is your payment that you need to make? What is the actual payment, that is required, right, for the month? So you're going to start with that. That's the minimum payment, right? Which I gave an example. Maybe it's $25. A lot of credit cards have like a minimum payment amount, of like $20 or $25. And then here you would add an extra 200 maybe to pay this one down. Now, as you can see, right, I haven't put in the interest rates into this particular planner. Now, some people will say you need to pay off the card with the highest rate first, right? And I read that. I read many different ways that you could pay off debt. And one of them was you need to pay off the one with the highest credit card interest rate first. Now, that's obvious because that means that high rate means your interest is accruing more on that particular card. And so the gurus want you to pay that off because it's like, oh my gosh, your rate's the highest on that one. For your numbers' sake, you need to pay off that one first because your numbers are going to be higher on that one, right? Well, for me, my cards were all over the place. I had, high interest rates on a lot of them. I had balances that were all over the place on, each one. And really what felt good to me was to say, which card could I pay off first? Because I just want less of these to worry about. It would feel better to me to have like, let's say a couple of cards that just have the balance on them. But I knew my goal was to pay them off completely. And ultimately that should be your goal, is to get to the point where each month you are completely paying off your credit card. And then you just have, new expenses that come onto the card and then you pay them off, again, each month, Now, for me, it was easier to say, I'm going to take the one that has a $1,200 balance on it and I'm going to pay it off after a couple of months and knock that one out. Then I can take whatever that amount that I was paying to that card, to card one. Once it's knocked out, I can apply that to card two now. It has the next highest balance, which is $2,300. Now I can do the minimum payment, plus I can pay that extra money that I have towards credit card two. Now, the trick here is that you have to almost like start not spending on your cards for a little while. Or let's say take card one away from yourself. And I did that. And what I did was I put my cards in a bag, a Ziploc bag, and filled it with water and stuck it in the freezer. And I froze my credit cards that way, like literally froze them. So that if I had to go spend money, and I thought I could just use my credit cards, then I would have to go into the freezer and chip ice away off of my credit card so that I could use it. Well, that worked. It helped me because it kept me from, just going in very easily and using my credit card. So I started to use cash instead. You can use little envelopes for yourself. They're called cash envelopes. And you can put cash in them and then just pay that way. In this day and age, a lot of people we're kind of all going towards digital anyway. Most people are using their credit cards, if not their phones, to pay, for things. So come up with a system for yourself, right? That feels good to you, and also research it and see, is this something that would work? Is this something that, for me, I didn't know if this would work. And then I found it as an idea for payoff. And this one felt good to me. I was like, yeah, I feel like I could knock out one card at a time, and that's going to feel like a relief each time a new card gets paid off. And so it felt really good to me to do it that way. So I've included that here for you so that you can see it and use it as an example for yourself. And you can get some paper and a pen and write down, each card, the balance and the minimum payment, and figure out how much extra money you want to put towards these cards. Now, no, and the topic of this video is, can I invest even though I have debt? And the answer is yes, right? You could, say to yourself, I'm going to freeze my cards. I'm going to take all these cards and I'm just going to pay the minimum and a little bit extra and pay them off. And that would work too. All right. So I want you to use this to your benefit and know that yes, you can invest while you are also paying off debt. All right. See you in the next video.